Welcome to Word Nerds. Visualize your vocabulary. Volume 2. Turn any SAT word into a picture and remember it forever. Alright, our first word is petulant. Petulant is an adjective, and this just basically means you're pretty grouchy. When you're grouchy, of course, you're not going to like anyone at all, too. Here, you remember this with the words petulant. And then remember with this kind of story. So you have this St. Bernard's dog who only eats and sleeps. Sounds familiar, shall I say? And you decide to go ahead and lend him to your neighbor because your neighbor needs a packing animal to help him carry his stuff. And so this guy is all like, no thanks for the pet that you lent me. In fact, I had to spend $50 on just food and water for this dog. I expected him to carry my pack, at least some of my equipment for me, but instead, he dropped them all off. I had to carry 100-pound pack all by myself. And as well as feeding for this little dog. Heh. You guys are disgraceful. How can you keep such a pet? That's kind of ironic if you ask me. Our next word is cloister. Cloister, there are actually two versions of this. There's a noun and there's a verb, but here it's actually we're talking about the verb. At least the example is talking about the verb yourself. When you're cloistering something up, that just basically means you're going to go ahead and you're confining yourself in something too. These people are actually cloistered inside this one little space, like let's say an elevator, and then when the elevator doors finally open, they all tumble out. Whee! That's pretty much what cloister means. And you remember this with toy store, not Toy Story, toy store. Now, you have to go ahead and you're cloistering people up as well as you're becoming inside a toy store. So this old man is inside a toy store playing with a train set that was similar to the one he played when he was a kid. He will try to relive all the memories that he had of playing with train sets as a boy. He's cloistered himself in his own little world, and the annoyed employees try to get him out of his cloistering to inform him that the toy store ended 10 minutes ago. Next up, we have protract. Now, protract is actually a word I actually have to do because, well, mainly I use tripods, and tripods need to protract and detract. And of course, with all this, you can go ahead and figure out what this means too. Protract basically means to go ahead and to delay something, to go ahead and you're putting it in. When you're protracting something, that just basically means you're going ahead and you're making it longer. Let's say I'm protracting a tripod. That means I'm lengthening it so that it can fit the ground and also my face, and also not that my head won't get cut inside the camera. And you remember this with Protract. Protract go-kart racing. You take your kids to Protract go-kart racing. And then with that, you realize that it's actually closed for renovation. Coming soon. Protract go-kart racing. For better and faster go-karts. Of course, your kids wanted to go go-kart racing today. You don't know what to do. Alright, our next word is puerile. Puerile is actually an adjective, and this just basically means you're going ahead and becoming silly, very immature, shall we say. Also, one of the synonyms apparently is juvenile, as well as other words too. So you, the mom, let's just assume you're the mom, went ahead and bought a bunch of groceries, and now you're coming back home and packing them out, and then you tell your kids to go ahead and watch TV for a few minutes while she goes on a rest. 10 minutes later, your kids decide to dump out all of the olive oil, pure olive oil, and then play in a pool of it. Very immature. It's not pure olive oil anymore. Now, the next word is ambiguous. Ambiguous is an adjective, and this just basically means to go ahead and you're confusing yourself. Like, you can interpret this in different meanings. There are different ways to say it, different meanings to different things that it means, but you don't know which one that you're currently talking about too. And remember this with amphibious. Amphibious is actually another word that just basically means you're an amphibian, that you can live both on land and you can also live on water. So let's say you're a zebra. The zebra sees something that looks like a lizard crawling out of the water, and he says, "Wait, so are you? I think you are a lizard because you look like one, but you were in the water, and so I'd say you were a fish. But since you're a fish, I would say you go back in the water so you can't survive." And then this little amphibian says, "I'm actually amphibious because that just basically means I can live in both water and land." And the zebra is perplexing. I can interpret that. That's pretty ambiguous of you to say. I mean, you're saying you're a fish and you're also saying you're a lizard? I'm an amphibian. What's an amphibian? There's no such thing. At least if there is, I've never heard of it. Well, now you have. That's the conversation I'm actually thinking of. Right, next up, we have bovine. Bovine is an adjective that just practically means you're inert, like a cow. Apparently, the word actually comes from the Latin word for cow. And ox, apparently it was the same word. So you can go ahead and figure out that you're bovine when you're going ahead and you're very slow and dim-witted. So you go ahead, you're a cow, you fall in a well, and then your friends decide to help you by throwing down an invitation of a bow and a vine and a message saying, "Grab on, we'll pull you up." And however, the cow is pretty slow and dim-witted, so it takes him 1 hour to actually realize what this means. And by then, I'm pretty sure the vine would be gone. At least his friends would be gone. Speaking of which, the cow himself went ahead and he's so slow and dim-witted that he doesn't realize what's happening. Alright, next up we have oblique. Oblique is an adjective, and this just basically means you're kind of slanted. You're not straight, you're a little bit slanted. Now, imagine an O that always blinks for a few seconds. Like, closes his eyes for a few seconds, opens them a few seconds later, closes them again, and that's how he blinks. However, he has a little ear canal issue in his left ear, so whenever he blinks, he goes ahead and slanted because he loses balance. You need ears to actually go ahead and take your balance on. If you haven't known that, well, now you do. Alright, next up, we have jejune. Jejune, not Jumanji. Welcome to Jumanji. Here, this just actually basically means you're pretty dull. And when things are dull, well, there are a few things that you can't really do very well, too. Alright, first up, you remember this with jejune. Jejune. Of course, this jejune actually comes from the stammering Sam here, too. So you and your friend going ahead, and you guys just want to go ahead and hang out in a cafe, drinking coffee, having a coffee break, relaxing, and then you guys are discussing what is the least interesting month. And so it's this stuttering Sam's turn to make his opinion, and he says June because you have to remember the stuttering. So June because then you have to go ahead and have a bunch of stupid weddings, and of that you remember June. With that you remember the word jejune yourself. Alright, this one's actually interesting myself. This is called insubordinate. Insubordinate is an adjective, and this just basically means you're not listening to authority at all. You're not listening to your boss. So there's this little subway worker. By subway, I mean the sandwich shop. And you can go ahead and realize this too. So you're a Subway sandwich worker, and then you go ahead, and you're supposed to be preparing a little sandwich for this customer. And then, well, in the middle of preparing it, you stop and say, "I need a break," and then take a knitting, which will take a couple of hours to finish. And so the person is like, "Excuse me, I want a sandwich." And she's oblivious. And then the manager comes in and says, "Hey, if you stop doing that. If you in sub order while preparing a sub sandwich in order to just go ahead and knit, I'm firing you the next time you do this." This woman just doesn't care at all, and the manager's pretty mad. So is the customer. The customer is always right. I'm pretty sure they owe her a free sandwich. Our last word is troglodyte. Troglodyte is one of the more complex words inside the SAT and ACT. I'm pretty sure they don't even use it at all anymore. It's a noun, and this just basically means you're going ahead and a caveman. You're a caveman too. Troglodyte just is a synonym for the caveman. Now, the caveman here, you remember this with frog, you bite you. Now, there's this kind of frog where you go ahead and said that if you lick it, the toxins that it excretes will make hallucinations. Fortunately, no such frog exists, so don't even go finding it, but just for the sake of this little picture, let's assume it does. So there are these two caveman people who go ahead. One eats his frog by biting it, one just licks it. And then he says, no, you gotta lick it and have the greatest time of your life. I'm feeling like he's like having drugs himself. This is the caveman equivalent of drugs. And with that, that's it. That is the SAT and the ACT words by WordNerd with pictures. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will see you guys soon. Until next time, ciao, peace. Bye-bye. Troglodyte. Noun. Insubordinate. Adjective. Jejun. Adjective. Oblique. Adjective. Bovine. Adjective. Ambiguous. Adjective. Puerile. Another adjective. Protract. Verb. Finally. Cloister. Verb and a noun. Petulant. Adjective. Thank you for watching. See you next time.